if you're like me and you might not have some OG tech savvy educators in your school building, you might not have access to a lot of, I don't want to call them well kept secrets, but well kept secrets. So, the first resource that I wish I had known about my first year of teaching is actually Teachers Pay Teachers. I think maybe my second year is when I discovered Teachers Pay Teachers. And again, it's not like it's a secret, it's not like schools necessarily don't want you to use Teachers Pay Teachers. Although there are some, especially if you work at a charter school, they don't necessarily want you to use that resource. But there are so many Teachers Pay Teachers stores that have so many resources on there for you guys to use. And it wouldn't make sense if you didn't use these resources. So on Teachers Pay Teachers, it's literally, the concept is literally how it sounds. You're paying other teachers so that you can use their content in your classroom. And so whether it's a lesson, whether it's a PowerPoint, whether it's maybe resources for parent-teacher conferences, resources for like those little cute templates of like introducing yourself as a teacher, like all of these things. I spent my first year staying up till insane times a morning creating my own when I could have went on Teachers Pay Teachers and downloaded a template and just threw my picture on there and threw my favorite foods and my favorite snacks on there. And so if I would have had this resource, it would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of energy. And the great thing about it is a lot of the resources you can find for free. So there are paid resources, but there are also free resources. I do have a Teachers Pay Teachers store, and I will put that link in the description box. So definitely check that out. But again, you can find a wide range of materials on TPT, and they are super helpful, whether it's a class schedule, whether it's actual lesson plans, if you have to create yours from scratch, all of that, like anything you could think of is on Teachers Pay Teachers. If you want to, if you're working on a lesson on nouns and you need some supplemental worksheets for nouns, or maybe you need a game for nouns and you need it to be in PowerPoint format, or you need it to be on a Google Drive, like literally Teachers Pay Teachers is the place for that. So just go now. Actually, no, wait, finish the video, then go. So the next thing that I wish, the next resource that I wish I would have known about as a first year teacher is definitely classroom jobs. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, my first probably week in the classroom, I was in shambles. I would get to school really early so that I can prep and put out the daily work. And then I would leave really late because I'd be cleaning up and setting up stations for the next day. I was just exhausted. And it was my fault. I did not utilize classroom jobs. And I'm not going to say that this is something that you can just hop right in on the first day of school and say, you do this for me, you do that for me, because you can't. So just to give a little bit of background knowledge for those first year teachers, you have to know your students before you are able to actually delegate classroom jobs. So I would say like the second or third week of school, you can start trying people out in classroom job positions. One thing that I did was, refer to the first reason. I use Teachers Pay Teachers in order to find templates for a job application. And so my students actually had to apply for the classroom job that they wanted. And to me, that showed that extra effort, that extra step. And they also had to get a parent signature. So that means a parent knows that they have this responsibility in my classroom as well. And you are aware that you can lose that responsibility if you are not able to handle it. So first, I'm going to tell you about why classroom jobs are so helpful to you as a teacher, and then I'll kind of go into how that looked in my classroom. So again, if you do not want to be running haywire in your classroom, because the reality of the situation is there are going to be times where you're passing out work and then the principal is going to come into your class and ask you for some papers that you lost a week ago, and you're going to have to stop mid pass out time and go and find that paper, and then somebody's going to call on the phone and nobody's going to have their papers, and the principal's not going to have their papers, your students aren't going to have your papers, and the person on the phone is going to be annoyed because you're going to have them on hold for a very long time. So how can I prevent things like this from happening, hence classroom jobs? The way that you do this is you have a student that passes out your papers for you, because that student's sole responsibility all day is to make sure that everybody gets a worksheet. You have a student that is delegated to answering the phone. You know that they have a nice phone voice. Hello, this is Miss Odom's class. How may I help you? And they're ready to go. You know, they sit close in vicinity to the phone. They're not going to pick up the phone and dial 911. You know, these are the type of responsibilities that make your job easier and make you not look like a chicken with your head cut off in your own classroom. So that is definitely something that I could have used my first year. Again, so how did I implement these classroom jobs? For one, it's based off of teacher discretion ultimately. For two, we actually had an introduction to classroom jobs. So I had students that would always raise their hand and say, can I pass those out for you? Can I answer the phone for you? Etc., etc., etc. And I would say, well, guys, next week we're going to start classroom jobs. So I'll start thinking about the things that you like to do around the classroom so that you guys can fill out your applications for that position. Then I went online and I kind of checked out the different options as far as what other teachers were doing as far as classroom jobs in their classroom. So ultimately, it's up to you which classroom jobs you have. Some people, you know, they want to be the only one to pass out pencils. They don't want anybody getting stabbed. They won't, you know, they just want to be the one. If you're that type of teacher where you're like, I have to do this job, then don't make it a classroom job. If you feel like you're the one that has to do, you know, that specific action, don't make it a classroom job. If you feel like you don't want, you know, random kids putting up Chromebooks and, you know, passing those out because of how expensive of a material they are or a resource they are, don't make that a classroom job. Definitely go based off of your own personal discretion. However, once you have created that list of, okay, these are the jobs that I would like for a student to assist me with throughout the day, or throughout the beginning of the day, the end of the day, that is when you start to create your application. On that application, you want to think of generic questions where students can say, this is why I deserve to be the person to answer the telephone. I have a nice voice, I'm responsible, I'm respectful, I get good grades, etc., etc., etc. So you want kids to understand that this is the responsibility of the jobs. So before I pass out applications, what I did was I went through each of my classroom jobs and I described what they would be doing. Then I went through what a model student looks like. What is a student who's going to be having a job in my classroom going to look and behave like? Because you don't want the president of the United States going around on Instagram talking crazy or on Twitter talking crazy because it makes America look bad. The same way goes for your classroom. You don't want a leader in your classroom who doesn't model leader behavior. And you can explain that to your students. They definitely understand that. You don't want to see your teacher in Walmart acting a fool, right? So they have to behave a certain way at all times, no matter if they are actually doing that position or not. And that's something that you want to make sure that you stress to students, because the other flip side of that is that you can lose your classroom job. And there are going to be times where students are, you know, they have a bad day, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that they need to lose their classroom job. There might be other, you know, consequences in place for minor things. However, if that student breaks that behavioral contract, that model student contract that you have, you can say, hey, remember you filled out this application and you agreed to this. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to take this position for you until I can see you back in that leader light and I can reward you with that position. Now, something that I'm going to get to, which is actually another resource, is I actually did, payments for their position, because I try to make my classroom as realistic as possible. Once you go out into the real world, if you do a job, you get paid for it. You might not always get paid in cash, you might not always get paid in monetarily, but you get rewarded for doing a job, right? So, I rewarded my students for doing their class jobs, and the way that I rewarded them is with class dojo points. And so my next resource actually connects to this one, because I definitely recommend class dojo as a resource for first year teachers. Now, if you are, I would say, over middle school, high school students might not be too invested in class dojo, so sorry. But if you are not a high school teacher, I would say middle school students still get the point. So what we had in our classroom is an app called Class Dojo. With Class Dojo, it is an all-in-one app, and I say that because it's almost like a Facebook page for your classroom, but more appropriate, right? So what you have is the students have the opportunity to sign up and participate in a way where they each get their own monster. And these cute little monsters, you can assign them to each student respectfully. So as a result, your student gets points for doing the right thing, and it makes a little ding sound. And they lose points for doing the wrong thing, which makes a little boom sound. So this is a great behavior management tool, and I wish I would have known about it my first year, and I would have known how to use it appropriately my first year. I would have rather had training on Class Dojo than a lot of the stuff I had training on, but that's neither here nor there. Class Dojo actually comes with a lot of tutorials, and you can check out other YouTube videos for how to work it. That's really not my forte, so I encourage you guys to check out somebody else's video, but I will put the link in the description box to Class Dojo so that you can actually check it out for yourself. So Class Dojo, each student gets a monster, and you can also connect their parents with this account, so the parents can also keep up with behavior and anything else. So let's say I have Sally's monster, and today Sally turned in her homework, so she got a point. She shared her materials with another student, so she got another point. And she lost a point for not being in her right spot in line. So mom, dad, guardian can look at Sally's dojo points for the day and see that, hey, Sally did this correct, but she didn't do this the right way. And they can have a conversation with Sally about her place in line. And you don't necessarily have to send out a daily update on behavior, or go and color in, or go and, color in a emoji, or fill out an agenda with a behavior report, because they have it on Class Dojo. Now, a good thing with Class Dojo is to encourage your parents to get as involved as possible, because a lot of students, if their parents aren't seeing that Class Dojo report, they don't really care. I don't really care if I lose 10 points today, because who's going to know? You get what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that at the beginning of the year at parent-teacher conferences, you push parents to get involved with Class Dojo. Another thing is, I can make statuses on Class Dojo, and that is a good way to keep parents involved, right? So parent engagement is always key as a teacher. So at the beginning of the year, if I say, hey, we're going to be using Class Dojo, I post every day on Dojo what your students have for homework, so that you can look and check and make sure that they're doing their homework. Now they're invested. Okay, so I can look on Dojo, and just like a status pops up on Facebook, a status will pop up and say, Miss Odom, said that students have math homework today and no school tomorrow. Boom. So now parents are a little bit more invested in this app, right? And the great thing about it is they can also keep up with that behavior management side of Class Dojo as well. So Another great feature, even if your parents choose not to get involved, is Class Dojo has like a weekly report, I think it is, where you can print off their percentages. So 80% of Sally's week went well, and this is the 20% where she missed out on some points or she lost points. Now parents can see Sally had a good week. She just needs to work on these few pointers, right? Or Billy had a really red week and he lost more points than he gained, right? And so parents can see this and you can print it off, send it home with students respectfully, right? So, Dojo is a lifesaver. I absolutely love Class Dojo. Now, in addition to my class jobs, as a reward, every week or so, I would say, okay, Billy has been our restroom monitor for this week, so he gets 10 dojo points. Now, I'm not sure if all schools are invested in dojo in a way where they tie that into PBIS incentives, but my school did. So students were really, really invested in those dojo points because they knew that the school store would be coming around and they would be able to buy things with their class dojo points. So that was like a double investment. Now, as a teacher, we're broke. We don't spend a lot of money. But if you want to go to the dollar store and get little cute things and have your own school store where your students can spend their money that they've earned during their jobs, that's pretty cool, right? So that is another way to like behavior manage and, create a real life situation where students are getting paid for their work and they're also able to spend their money as they choose. So some things that I would keep in my store were headphones, because students had Chromebooks and they would always lose them or mess them up, and headphones just were a rarity, okay? Then I would have like cute pencils or cute little things where students could decorate their desks or their lockers. I would also have things that students like had to take home, like slime or bracelets or like Play-Doh, different things that students like. And you can do this, according to the age group that you are working with. Now, another app that I wish I had was ClassTag. And ClassTag is also similar to Dojo, but it kind of takes away that behavior management side. So I more so recommend ClassTag for those older groups of students. So when you have those middle schoolers, when you have those high schoolers, those are the ones that might benefit from ClassTag more than Class Dojo. So ClassTag is literally set up like Facebook. Teachers can post statuses, parents can post statuses. You can have all of your students and their families' information in one place on your phone. So at the end of the day, I used to update both. I used to have both in my class, which is actually a lot. But I used to update both ClassTag and Class Dojo with the status, right? And my status would say, parents, students have reading homework tonight. Don't forget tomorrow's a dress down day, right? Really simple status as a teacher, but it would wrap up our day, right? Or I could say something as simple as, parents, don't forget to check Dojo for your daily behavior management report for your child. And that's usually maybe if I'm trying to like get parents to see like, we had a rough day in class today. Y'all might want to check this out. So I definitely say, either or both are very, very vital, especially as a first year teacher when it comes to engagement, parent involvement, all of that. One specific feature that I really like about ClassTag is that it would translate. And I'm not sure if Dojo has like updated since I've been teaching in person, so it might also have this, but ClassTag, when you work in minority, where minorities are the majority of your district, you might have students who speak English, but they're at home, they speak Spanish, right? So, or another language. So, class tag would allow you to choose, or allow parents to choose the language that they wanted to be communicated in. And so when I would send a message to a parent, I wouldn't have to call a third party and say, hello, can you translate for me? And then put them on three-way and do all of that. I could just send the message through class tag and it would automatically translate to their respective family. So that was really cool. Another thing that I liked about class tag, and again, I'm not sure if Dojo has updated since I've used it and now has these features as well, but I know for a fact that class tag had these originally. Class tag allows parents to decide exactly how they want to be contacted. So if a parent wants to be contacted via email because they're at work all day and they check their email more often, then class tag will send my messages or my statuses as an email. If parents wanted to be text because they have their phone on them and that's the easiest thing for them to check, class tag would send them a text message with my status. So it was really great. I definitely recommend that for any first year teachers because it's definitely a game changer. Also, um, again with first, these are things that you want to know first day. These are things that you want to know first parent teacher conference, because that is when parents are getting everything set up. It's really hard at the middle of the year to say, hey, we're going to download and use this app, because you just about have to call all of your families and harass them in order to get them to download it. A good thing about having these apps, especially class tag, is that it does send out those text messages. With Dojo, it's kind of like they have to have the app. A lot of parents will get you and say like, oh, I don't have the storage, or I don't have the space, or I don't have a smartphone, so I can't get it. Well, if you've signed up for class tag, if you've accepted my class tag invites, you'll just get a text message. Okay, so keep up with your kid. Anywho, so, the last resource that I would recommend for first year teachers is a Google Classroom, Google for Educators, Google Voice. Just Google. Google is the key, okay? I know I've been saying everything is the key, but Google really is the key. So, with Google Classroom, this is a great place, especially if you are somebody who does hybrid learning, virtual learning, anything like that. You have everything you need in one spot. You can create tests, you can create worksheets, you can upload tests, you can upload worksheets, you can have it where it self grades and keeps all of this and keeps all of this information in a virtual gradebook, right? So Google Classroom has so many different features that I am just going to recommend that you guys check it out. And you guys check out another YouTube video, a YouTuber who is fancy and like shows you all of the steps to working that site. But again, as from a teacher to a first year teacher, look, if y'all don't have nothing else, y'all better get Google Classroom. And when I say Google Voice allows you to have a phone number that's not your phone number. And let me tell you, all them thirsty daddies out there, all of them angry parents out there are gonna blow your personal phone number up if you give it to them. Now me, I'm the type of person who I know exactly where my block button is and I know how to work it. So I had no issue with giving out my personal phone number. But again, it's kind of hard to filter. Even when you could ignore somebody, it was like, I still have to look at this message in my phone. So a good thing about Google Voice is you can have the app and you can connect it to your phone. You can set the hours that you want to be bothered with parents, and you can give out that phone number instead of your personal phone number and only check the app when you want to check the app. Or you can have it where everything forwards directly to your phone as well. So Google is miraculous when it comes to being supportive to educators. So I definitely recommend checking out those features that Google has for educators, because there are quite a bit. So just to wrap it up and make sure that you guys have all of your resources, you got pencil and paper. Teachers Pay Teachers, Class Jobs, Class Dojo, class tag, and Google. Make sure you check out those 5 resources because as a first year teacher, they will change your life. Comment below what other tips and tricks you guys would like as teachers, and I can definitely produce those videos for you guys. But make sure you like and subscribe. Peace out.